I think a few weeks ago, I uploaded a video about all of my favorite books from 2025. So I went back to my reading journal, picked like 1 or 2 books of every month of 2025, and classify them as my favorite books. I am planning to do something similar for 2026, but instead of waiting for the whole year to actually pick up a favorite book or 2 every month, I'm going to do it every 3 months. So since today is April, I am going to share with you the 6 books that are my favorites from my January, February, and March read. So let's get started. I think I'm gonna start with the most recent month first, which is March. I do have 2 favorite books that I will share with you. The first one is The Deal by Elle Kennedy. This is the first book in the Off-Campus series, I believe. And this one is about Hannah and Garrett. Hannah is a music major, Garrett is a history major, but he is also the captain of the hockey team in this university. I think they first met at an ethics class. She basically aced the midterm exam where everybody else in the class failed the exam. And because the professor is going to give them kind of like a redo test, he asked her to tutor him because he has to keep up his GPA or else he wouldn't be able to play in the game. And that is how their story starts. I mainly pick up this book because the TV show adaptation is coming out to Prime in May, and the first season is going to be based on this book, and I cannot wait to watch it. I have watched some of the trailers, the teasers, and like the BTS video that they had on Instagram, and I think it's gonna be a great TV show adaptation. I'm hoping that it will be, and like I said, I cannot wait to watch it in May. If you have been kind of on the verge of trying out Elle Kennedy's books, I would highly recommend this one. Alright, so the next favorite book that I have for March was Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. I have heard so many great things about her books, especially this one and Ready or Not. She just came out with a new book as well, I think last month. It's called No Matter What. And honestly, I have all of the 3 books because I was so intrigued by the premise. This one is about Lenny, whose best friend just passed away from cancer and she is going through it. And the love interest is gonna be Miles. Miles is actually the uncle of the girl that she is nannying. And she obviously worked for the mom, which is his sister. And there's just some kind of like family dynamic, family drama that is going on between Miles and his sister and Denise. And he's basically not super close to both of them. And he also noticed that Lenny is a mess. And Lenny was able to kind of share with him that she just lost her best friend and she is just in a different world trying to kind of overcome this loss. He eventually offered her to help her out because he also had a very similar experience with grief and loss. And in exchange, he wants Lenny to involve him in anything about the niece. Whenever Lenny is picking up maybe her niece from the school, he wants to tag along. And when they come home and wait for his sister to come home from work, he also wants to tag along because he wants to get to know the niece and eventually get to know his sister. I love the writing style and I just love the flow of the story, and I cannot wait to read more from Cara Bastone, hopefully this year. So those are the 2 books that I think were my favorites in March. I had such a great reading month for March, and all of the books that I read, I think 4-star and above. But let's go to February and I'll show you which one are my favorite books. So for February, I really enjoyed Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman. I feel like her book cover is just very interesting because it is similar to this one. I think her other books, she has, I think I have 2 of her other books. It has like this kind of template for the book cover, and I don't know, it just piqued my interest when I saw it at Barnes & Noble. But this one is about Chani and and Gabe. This also has dual timeline, then and now timeline. Basically 10 years ago they met because Gabe is an upcoming actor who's about to star in this new movie franchise, and she's asked to interview him and kind of talk about his life and how he was able to get casted to star in this new movie. So they spent the whole weekend together 10 years ago. Something definitely happened between the 2 of them, but after that weekend they basically lost touch and they never really see each other again until now, which is 10 years after that first article came out. He's about to also again star in this one movie, and she was asked to do kind of like a follow-up interview. And I always love a book where it's set in Hollywood, or when the characters are either an actor or a journalist that specifically talk about celebrities. I just love that book and that setting. And this book reminds me of Catherine Santer's The Bodyguard and the rom-comers, and that is, I feel like, one of the reasons why I love this book so much. The second companion book in this universe, I think, is out, and I do have it. It's gonna be about his sister and his like movie star friend, and that is gonna be very interesting as well to me because it has a reverse age gap romance trope. She is a single widowed mom with one daughter, I believe, and she owns a bookstore in a small town. So I cannot wait to read that one. Hopefully that other book is gonna be one of my favorite as well. But if you haven't heard about Elisa Sussman or any of her other books, I would highly recommend this one. The next book that is my favorite from February is This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. This is the second book in the Skyland series, and I only have one book left, which is the third one. I think it's called Can't Get Enough, and I am super excited about that one. I'll talk a little bit about that, but this one is about Sol, who we kind of learned a little bit about in the first book. She has 3 daughters, I believe, and she's basically a stay-at-home mom. I imagine her as someone who is very organized, very in touch with like her household and how to take care of, you know, the house, the kids, and I think her daughters are very active, so they have a lot of activities at school and after school and all of that. But something happened in the first 30 to 40 pages of the book that literally had my jaw drop, and in that instant she has to basically be more independent, having to figure out how to create an income for her household for her 3 daughters, because she doesn't want her daughters to be pulled out from their private school or pulled out from their extracurricular activities and stuff like that. And it just has a very interesting and I think unusual storyline and how she met the love interests of this book. And if you have read the first book, I feel like that first book was very emotional. There's just a lot of things that happen to the main characters, and I feel like the second book is a little lighter, even though there are some heartbreaking things that happen to Sol in this book, but it's not as heavy, I feel like, as the first book. And I cannot wait to finish this book series with reading the third one, hopefully before the year ends. That one is going to be about Hendrix, which we also learned about her in the first 2 books in this series. She was single and she's not married, and she also doesn't have any kids, and she has that rich auntie vibes, and I cannot wait to read that book. I just want to know what's gonna happen to her. There is gonna be a love interest, but we never ever really learn about him in these 2 books. We do learn that she is taking care of her sick mom. I believe her mom had either dementia or Alzheimer's, so I think it's gonna be a little bit more emotional, but hopefully we learn something fun about Hendrix in the third book. So the last 2 books are the books that I read in January. I only read 3 books, but I feel like these 2 books are kind of like my top favorites. So the first one that I want to share with you is called Well Met by Jen DeLuca. I bought this book of the month book from, I think, the thrift store or a book off or something. I just wanted to basically pick it up because I have so many book of the month books that I have not read, and I didn't really honestly have any expectations because this book is based on a Renaissance fair, and I've never been to one, never really been super interested in going to a Renaissance fair. I've obviously know kind of like what it is because there are some storyline in The Big Bang Theory where they went to a Renaissance fair, but I just did not expect to actually love this book so much the way I did, that I actually bought all of the books in this book series. And I feel like one of the reasons why I love this book so much is because it started right in the action and it doesn't really have too much kind of like introduction. And I have no idea why, but ever since I read the first page, the story just kept my interest. Even though, again, like I said, I'm not really a fan of Renaissance Fair, I did not think it's gonna be a favorite book of mine. And I don't know, I just love this book so much. Anyways, this book is about Emily, who moved to this small town because Her older sister just got into an accident and she couldn't really move around a lot. So she's coming over to help the sister because the sister also has a daughter, her niece, that kind of like need a driver because even though it's summer, she is going to volunteer at this Renaissance fair, and Emily really wants her niece to be able to do this Renaissance fair. And I guess the thing that started it all is that her niece need an adult supervision who would also volunteer at the Renaissance fair, which I think her niece didn't know about. So she was kind of like forced, I guess, to volunteer and work at this Renaissance fair over the summer, and that is where she met a couple friends from this small town and also the love interest, Simon, who is basically the director of this whole fair every summer. He's also one of the teachers from her niece's high school. And in the beginning, we just know that Simon is just very grumpy, very strict, very by the books basically. And then throughout the book, we learn why he was like that and how Emily and Simon got closer and they share a little bit about each other and stuff like that. I think it was just a really cute book, and I just love this book so much that I actually bought the rest of the book in the series, and I cannot wait to read it, hopefully this year. So the last book that is my favorite from my January reads was One Dark Window by Rachel Gillick. This is a fantasy book and it is a duology, so whenever I decided to pick up the second one, I will be able to actually complete one more book series, and honestly I cannot wait to read the second one. This one is about Elspeth, who has like a monster or a voice in her head, and somehow he's also able to kind of come out and help her whenever she's in danger. She lives in this kingdom called Blunder, and I think Blunder is kind of cursed because there's always this fog around the kingdom. People are trying to always stay in like the clear path because whenever you get inside the fog, people will get lost and basically disappear. She also somehow get entangled with the royal family eventually, as well as her uncle and her cousin that she was actually close to. This one also has a very simple magic system. It's based on a deck of cards, and it was just very interesting. I don't know how, but I think I read this book within a couple sittings. It was just very interesting. The writing is just very fast-paced, and whenever I posted on Instagram sharing that I am reading the first book, a couple people DM me and they were saying that the second book is even better, which makes me so excited to pick up the second book and hopefully finish the series in the near future. I feel like sometimes in my experience when I'm reading a book series, the first book is always like very good because you learn everything about the universe, about the characters that might come up in the second or third book. And I just couldn't believe that two people actually said that the second book is better, and that just kind of piqued my interest even more. Hopefully I'll be able to pick up the second book sometime soon. I haven't really been in the mood of reading a fantasy, but maybe in the next couple months before summer hits, I will be able to pick up the second book. But I love this book so much. Like I said, fast-paced, very interesting plot, and the ending I kind of was expecting, but I wasn't really sure if that's gonna be what happened. I wouldn't say the ending is a cliffhanger, but it definitely makes you feel like you want to read the second one because you want to know what is next. Those are the 6 books that are my favorites for the last 3 months. I am so happy that I have been having a pretty decent reading experience so far in 2026. And again, let me know in the comment below if you have read any of these books, and let me know if you're gonna plan to add these books into your own TBR.